Winter Story, this piece is relatively straightforward. The first section especially, really there's not too much to worry about in the first section. But there are a couple of things. So let's go bar by bar. So the first thing that comes to mind, once you follow the fingerings both for the fretting hand and the plucking hand, it's really good. You use the fingerings in the piece. Looking at how we're going to get from the D in the first bar to the G in the second bar, the last quaver. Here we go. Now, I hate having to change on the same fret over different strings with the same finger, because you can never get it perfectly smooth. There's always going to be a bit of silence between the notes. You could do a technique not done too much in classical but more in electric and acoustic, where we roll the finger. So we're not actually taking the finger off and then back on again. The only problem is that puts the hand in a precarious position to play the next bar. It's quite hard to see. My fourth finger there is very much flatter than it should be, and it's always a bit risky. You could try doing that, but it does throw up problems then getting to the B flat here. Otherwise, just you could practice working on getting, maybe putting the whole chord on from the first bar, and just practice going nice and slow, maybe even slower than that, to get that change between the D and the G really, really crisp. And the second bar, getting to the B flat is another thing we have to be quite strict on. Jumping from the E to the B flat, that's another kind of same finger jump. The need to make that really smooth is less than with the melody, because it's kind of hidden beneath. So that's another point of practice, but not as important as the previous D to G. So make sure that in the second bar, when you put down the D with the fourth finger, it doesn't block off the E. The E is meant to ring on for 3 quavers there. However, it is a kind of a functioning melodic note. You could argue the melody could be ya ba 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 dee 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 dee. So even though it's written as part of the accompaniment, perhaps you can consider it as part of the melody and bring it out a little bit more. In that case, it wouldn't matter if the E was blocked off. It's a funny one, that. Next bar's okay. Again, maybe the second, on the third bar, the second finger on the C sharp. Just be careful that doesn't block off the E string. At the end, on the fourth bar, keep that D on, obviously, for the full bar. And keep that accompaniment well below, so that the D rings on. I'm controlling those last 3 quavers too. I'm muting the G with the third finger when it comes down onto the F, whilst keeping the D on with the full finger. I don't think it should be like that, where you let them ring on. And above all, with this, a more kind of musical direction is try and let this phrase undulate and move up and down, even though it says just piano without any slowdowns, any writs. Try and make this rhythm breathe. It's very, very vocal. It's very cantabile, this. it's got this real arch that is just inherent, it's part of it. You could look at changing the texture, the feel on the second time round when you're repeating, because you do the repeats for this in the grade. It does say at the bottom to do the repeats. I've been experimenting with playing the first time tasto and then bring it a bit more. I think it is a bit melancholic, this piece. It's interesting what the winter story is, I wonder. But having that slightly darker tone on the first or second time round is quite nice. The harmony is very guttural. It's very heart wrenching. You've got the D minor, then this A7 chord that hints at this F note, which is the kind of sharp 5 or flat 6, minor 6. It's lovely, nice kind of rich harmony. And then suddenly we're jumping into bar 5, the major, bigger mezzo forte. Here, just be careful of holding the F sharp on a bit longer, keeping it ringing over the A, so that should stay on, and then you shift quickly. It's quite a be careful of this shift, because the third finger's on. We can't get the fourth finger near, so you have to just take the leap of faith there, and then bring the first finger back. So don't be tempted to make that shift easier by taking the F sharp off. It loses something there if you do that. And then make sure the only note that I really make sure is blocked off in the bass is this A in bar 5. So I'm playing A and play the G, block off the A. So as soon as I play the G, my thumb comes to the 5th string. Play that in slow motion. Okay, very important there, otherwise we get this horrible sound. Isn't nice. And then bar 6, the other awkward shift is this shift from the A with the third finger. Yeah, I would finger it like that. I would put the third finger on there. And then just be aware that to keep this legato and smooth, we can almost do a very, very subtle kind of glissando. You don't want to have this sound coming because it's not intended, but the note is just, it lasts that tiny bit longer, than we shift very quickly, and as a result of that there is a bit of tiny glissando there, I think. It's a nice kind of sigh expression, that and again, this part of the phrase has this undulation. So it comes back up at the end, and then bar 9. Here we were rallying. I play this with 3, 2 and 1 in bar 10, and then use the fourth finger slightly flat to just block off any strings that might be ringing on, except the 6th string. Okay, mute the strings, and then we dive into the second section. And so the second section is the more challenging of this piece, and the thing that kind of brings this up to grade 6 level. This PMI repeated quite fast pattern in a kind of tremolo style. Now, there's a lot to be said about tremolo. Obviously, we're not using the A finger. We're not doing subdivision of 4. That would be quite nice, but it's not like that. But the rules still apply here. So if you want to kind of research a bit of tremolo technique, again, Brandon Acker has a great tutorial on tremolo on YouTube. I'll link in the description below. And there's a lot of kind of exercises you can work on to get this to be smooth. The really common one is to kind of make the finger note staccato, and in doing so, you're bringing the next finger onto the string immediately. That is a good thing to practice. But the thing I find with tremolo and this kind of playing, my theory is that once you get to a certain speed, it becomes a hand gesture. It becomes a roll of the hand rather than this kind of, we don't think of it as thumb, middle, index, thumb, middle, index. It's more of a kind of gesture. But we can't skip practicing with very, very good articulation where we do think about each finger separately and have it in its own space. So the goal is for a gesture. I'm not kind of I'm not thinking about each finger. I'm not thinking about da 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 the triplets. It's just a kind of gesture. But you can't do that and get that to sound clean without a lot of work. Thinking P-M-I, P-M-I, very rhythmically accurate. So I would really advocate very, very slow metronomic practice on these arpeggios, on these tremolo patterns. You could try it with a staccato approach. You could try it very legato as well. I think the nicest sound really is where there isn't any string planting there. It's very, very legato. So the difficulty is people often don't advocate playing tremolo that slow sometimes because the action, that the very motion of each finger is very different when we're playing slow to when we're playing fast. It's like how if you're playing an acoustic guitar with a plectrum, playing fast, your hand does very different things to what it does playing slow, and we can't really emulate what the hand does fast when we're playing slow. So playing just slow is not enough because your hand motion will be very, very different. Each finger will be moving in a very different way. But that doesn't mean we shouldn't do slow practice, because the slow practice gives us enough headspace to think about each note on its own and to place them very well rhythmically. And to navigate the left hand changes, the fretting hand changes too. So do lots of slow practice, and slow practice that is very metronomic. If you can't play this to a regular metronome beat, even kind of a metronome beat that is on every semiquaver, like that. Can't do that, there's no way you're going to be able to do fast tremolo on this and make it sound good. So we have to find a way to play slow and very, very rhythmical. There's a lot to be said about looping each bar like that, yada yada yada, and then trying to go fast, and then seeing where that flip happens in your mind, where we no longer play in the same way, where it's suddenly gestural. maybe the second half of bar 11 is a good one to loop for that. Nice and slow. Faster. So yeah, now I'm thinking differently. Now it's a different gesture. So we are aiming for a gesture, but we have to go through the process of it being very intensely rhythmical, where we don't think of it as basically, but by the word gesture I mean each three is not three separate events. Each three notes is not three separate events. It's one event that is the thumb, and then the fingers just do their thing after the thumb. So everything trickles out the thumb. So work on very, very slow practice. Speed up. Find that point where you suddenly it becomes a gesture. See how that is. If it's really, really tight, fantastic. If it isn't, we need to do more slow practice. And above all, you know, this technique takes a long, long time to get this fast, and it is tough. And you will find that there'll be squeaks and missed notes and blah, blah, blah. At the end of the day, it doesn't have to be at this level immaculately clean every single note. The worry I have, and the thing that happens a lot when we're learning this level, is that we obsess over the small things in place of other things that are far bigger and far more detrimental to the piece. So if you're obsessing over one particular bar of this bit, but you're not thinking about how you're phrasing the entire section and making that sound as musical as possible, you've got your priorities wrong. We first think about the grand structure and how we can make this sound musical, and then if we get that all exactly as we want it, then we can look at the tiny little bits and make them as clean as possible. Don't be playing this kind of just super fast with no kind of attempt to follow the dynamics or add rubato. So we can let this breathe, and that is quite hard to do. Playing this piece, starting off this section kind of slowly and getting faster, it's tough because we've got to bridge that gap between the notes, feeling the notes as 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 to this more gestural approach. But that's a really, really good practice to do as well, is to go from articulate one by one, slowly speed up, and then it becomes a gesture, and trying to make that quite seamless. I didn't do very well there, that wasn't very seamless, but that's important too, being able to switch between gestural playing and the more articulate playing evenly. So you could check out this app by Wayne Krantz called Humanome. Wayne Krantz is a very interesting electric guitarist. It's a metronome that varies slightly. So you could try. You could try playing along with that. That might be a cool thing to try. You can see how it goes up and down in tempo quite drastically. That might be a cool thing to play with. It's actually a great app for many reasons, many things you can do with it. So yeah, there's the Humanome that could help. And yeah, thinking about how we can the big picture and how we can make this sound musical too. It's it's got the same phrasing as the first part, right? So we need these kind of swells. Especially this last part at the end, it needs to come down. Bar 14 and then back in. Big again, you know, coming back into that bar 15, bigger. Also note that it is quite different playing piano and doing the tremolo than playing mezzo forte, playing louder. So you'll want to practice maybe in the same way that we did with the metronome, just practice instead of going faster and slower. Really soft. It's completely different again. You have a completely different plucking hand technique when you're playing soft to when you play loud. So we have to practice both of them. And especially the one that you feel less inclined, the one that feels harder. Lastly, with this section, always feel the thumb on the beat. So be careful especially with this triplet pattern PMI. It's very easy to suddenly start placing the M and the P together. And that, whenever the triplet is uneven, that could happen, and we then lose the beat entirely. We need that strong bass note on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It carries the music and it carries the fingers too. If you feel the bass note strongly, it will carry the fingers and they'll play better. Yeah, that's all I have to say really for this piece. There's lots of online resources you can look at for tremolo. I know this isn't full tremolo, but it's the same kind of approach. A great start into playing full PAMI tremolo. So find some nice tutorials on YouTube. Look at Brandon Acker. And yeah, best of luck with the piece. Enjoy it.